My phone rang sometime after midnight. At first, I thought it was part of a dream, just a sound caught in the dark. But when I saw my daughter's name glowing on that screen, a chill ran through me. No one calls a mother that late unless something's gone terribly wrong. I answered fast. Brianna, baby, what's wrong? There was a pause, then I heard her crying. Not those soft, controllable tears, but deep, choking sobs that come from somewhere no one should ever reach. Mama, I'm at the police station. Marcus hit me, but now he's telling them I attacked him. They believe him. They believe him, Mama. For a second, my body forgot how to move. The world went quiet, except for her crying. My voice came out thin. Where are you? Don't you say another word to nobody. You hear me? I'm coming right now. I did not remember putting on shoes or grabbing my purse. I just knew I had to get to her. My keys were in my hand before I even realized I'd left the house. Driving through the empty Atlanta streets, the night pressed in close. The traffic lights blinked red over wet pavement, and I could feel my heart pounding so hard it hurt. Every mile, I whispered, "Hold on, baby, just hold on." When she was little, Brianna used to call me whenever thunder scared her. "Mama, the sky's angry," she'd say, and I'd tell her, "It's just noise, baby. I got you. Tonight." Her voice sounded just like that again. That same little girl who thought her mama could fix anything at 57. I thought I had faced every kind of pain a woman could endure. I buried my husband too young, worked double shifts, and raised my child on faith and grit. I believed that if I stayed strong, life would finally go easy on us. But I was wrong. A mother never really rests. Trouble has a way of finding her children, even when they're grown. The clock on my dashboard said 1:42 a.m. when I pulled up to the police station. The lot was half-lit, rain still clinging to the air. The place smelled of metal and cold stone, like sorrow had lived there a long time. Inside, the young officer at the front desk looked up from his computer. "Ma'am, can I help you?" "I'm here for my daughter, Brianna Thomas," I said, trying to steady my voice. He blinked, then looked toward the hallway like the name itself made him nervous. Yes, ma'am, one moment." He slipped through a side door, leaving me standing there alone. Each tick of the clock felt like a dare, a reminder that justice moves slow when you are not the one it favors. I could hear muffled voices down the hall, sharp and tense. When the officer returned, his face was pale, his eyes unsure. I'm sorry, ma'am. I don't know what's going on exactly. I was told to wait before letting anyone back there." "Wait by who?" I asked. Before he could speak, a man in a gray suit walked out. His badge glinted under the harsh lights. He smiled, that kind of smile meant to keep you quiet. "Mrs. Thomas, I'm Sergeant Hale. Your daughter's fine. We're just sorting through both sides of the story." "Fine," I repeated. She called me crying, saying y'all think she's the one who attacked him. He sighed like I was being dramatic. "We just need to review statements. These things take time." "Did you even look at her?" I asked. My daughter wouldn't hurt a soul unless she was trying to save her own life. He didn't answer. He only said, "Please, have a seat." But I couldn't sit. My hands were trembling, my mind spinning with fear and fury. Something was wrong here. Too many quiet looks, too many nervous faces. Finally, after what felt like forever, they led me to her. Brianna sat on a metal bench in a small gray room. Her hair was tangled, her cheek swollen, and there was a tiny cut near her mouth. When she saw me, her face crumpled. "Mama," she whispered, "they think I attacked him." I turned. And there he was, Marcus, standing just outside the glass. His shirt crisp, not a mark on him. Calm to calm. His eyes met mine, and he straightened his cufflinks slow, almost deliberate, like he was showing me who really had control here. Then that smirk, that cold, knowing smirk that told me this wasn't chaos, it was planned. The sergeant stepped closer. Mrs. Thomas, your daughter might need to stay for questioning. We have to follow procedure. You mean you have to protect somebody? I said quietly. Whose order are you following, Sergeant? His jaw tightened. Ma'am, let us do our job. Then do it, I snapped. Because right now, it looks like y'all doing his. Brianna's voice was barely a whisper. Mama, his uncle, he's the deputy chief. My breath stopped cold. The sergeant coughed, pretending not to hear. And then I understood. This wasn't just bias. This was a wall I was never meant to climb. A wall built by men protecting men, and my daughter had been thrown against it. I stood tall, though my knees wanted to give. Then call his uncle, I said. Tell him Mrs. Thomas is here, because I promise you, I am not leaving this building without my child. The sergeant hesitated, then walked out. Through the glass, Marcus tilted his head, watching me. His smile wide and lazy, cruel, confident. He whispered something to an officer, who laughed nervously. That look on his face told me everything. He thought this was over. But when the sergeant returned, his tone had changed. You can take her home, ma'am. We'll follow up tomorrow. No apology, no paperwork, just dismissal. I helped Brianna stand, her body trembling as she leaned into me. The young officer at the desk looked down as we passed, shame flickering across his face. Outside, the air was heavy and wet. Street lights blinked weakly against the dark. Brianna climbed into the passenger seat, clutching her jacket like armor. He said he'll make me regret this, she murmured, eyes fixed on the window. I gripped the wheel, my voice steady but low. Let him try. He doesn't know who he's messing with. But inside, I felt the truth clawing at me. This was just the beginning. That night, I thought I was driving my daughter home. I did not know I was driving us straight into the lion's den. The next morning came heavy, gray, and silent. The kind of silence that hums inside your bones after a storm. The coffee sat on the counter untouched, steam curling and dying before I even looked at it. My body was present, but my mind was still inside that police station. The fluorescent lights, the cold tile, the way Brianna's voice cracked when she said, "They believe him, Mama." I did not sleep that night. I just sat in my chair by the window, watching the dark slip into daylight. By the time the first bus rumbled past our house, I had made up my mind. Tomorrow was here, and I was not waiting for Marcus's version to reach my door. When I pulled up to Brianna's house that morning, the driveway looked cleaner than it had any right to. No glass, no scuffs, no trace of what had happened the night before. Like somebody had taken a broom to sin and swept it under the rug. Brianna stood in the doorway wrapped in a blanket, her eyes puffed and her hair tied back like she'd given up trying to look whole. "Mama," she whispered, her voice small as a child's. I stepped inside and held her for a long moment. Her body shook, not from cold but from the kind of fear that sticks. He said he'd ruin me, she murmured into my shoulder. Her fingers twisted the edge of the blanket like she was trying to hold herself together. I brushed her hair from her face and whispered, "He can't ruin what he didn't build." But even as I said it, I felt the weight of uncertainty pressing down, because I had seen the look in that officer's eyes the night before. The kind of look that said, "You're not supposed to be here." We sat down at the kitchen table, where her untouched mug of tea had gone cold. The sunlight tried to break through the blinds, but the air in that house felt dim. "What did they say after I left?" I asked. "They let him go," she said. "Said there wasn't enough evidence. He told them I attacked him after he tried to calm me down." Her voice cracked again, and she wiped her eyes quick, like she was afraid to cry too loud. I clenched my jaw. "Where is he now?" "At work," she said, like nothing happened. The anger rose again, slow and controlled this time. The kind of anger that hums quiet, cold and sharp. "Then we don't sit," I said. "We stand. We move." We drove to the precinct again that afternoon. The same young officer from last night was standing by the door. His eyes flicked toward me, and then down, quick, like he didn't want to be seen talking. "Ma'am," he said softly, pulling me aside. "You might not want to push this here. The sergeant, he plays golf with your son-in-law's father. I shouldn't even be saying this." I looked at him, long and steady. "Then you're saying justice only swings one way around here?" He swallowed hard. "I'm saying sometimes the paperwork decides before the truth does." That was when something inside me shifted. A small, cold click. If they could rewrite her truth on paper, then I would learn to write mine louder. I thanked him quietly and turned away. My shoes squeaked against the floor. That same sound I remembered from last night. But this time, I wasn't walking in as a mother begging for fairness. I was walking out as a woman preparing for war. When I got back to the car, Brianna looked at me, waiting for something, anything. That sounded like hope. "They're not going to help us," I said finally, "so we'll help ourselves." She frowned, confused. "What do you mean?" "I mean, we start paying attention. Every bruise, every message, every whisper. You keep records. You keep your head low and your phone on. Because if they won't hear your truth now, we'll make them choke on it later." Her eyes widened a little, the fear inside them softening just enough for a sliver of strength to peek through. "Mama, I don't want to fight him," she said. "You're not fighting him," I replied. "You're surviving him." The drive home was quiet, but not the peaceful kind. Every mile between the station and our house felt like a lesson in who gets believed and who gets buried. When we reached the stoplight near our street, I could feel her watching the cars pass, lost in thought. "Do you think people change, Mama?" she asked. I gripped the steering wheel a little tighter. "People reveal. They don't change. You just finally see them clear." She nodded slowly, staring out the window. As we pulled into the driveway, I noticed the sky again, thick clouds hanging heavy, swollen and waiting. I could almost hear the thunder, low and far, like the kind that promises a storm still coming. Inside, I poured myself a fresh cup of coffee. It tasted bitter this time, but I drank it anyway. Every sound in that house, the ticking clock, the refrigerator hum, the soft creak of the floor, felt louder than before. I realized I wasn't just angry. I was learning. I was learning how silence works, how power hides behind politeness, how truth bends when men like Marcus are allowed to twist it. And somewhere between those thoughts, I made myself a quiet promise. I would not let her story end in whispers. When Brianna came into the kitchen and sat beside me, her shoulders still trembling, I put my hand over hers. "We're going to be fine," I said gently. "Not today, not tomorrow, but one day." Her eyes filled with tears again, but this time, she did not look away. "I'm scared, Mama," she said. "I know, baby, but you've got me." And under my breath, I added words only I needed to hear. I'd spent a lifetime playing by their rules. It was time to learn theirs outside. The first drop of rain hit the window, slow, deliberate, like the start of something that would not stop once it began. I watched it roll down the glass, and for the first time since that phone call, I felt something close to calm. Not peace, no, but the calm that comes before you take your first real step into the fight. That night, as I checked every lock and turned off every light, I whispered to myself, they think they buried her truth, but they just planted it. And when I closed my eyes, I could still hear the distant thunder, coming closer. The storm came just like I knew it would. Hard rain against the windows, thunder rolling low and mean, shaking the frame of the house. I sat in my chair, blanket around my shoulders, thinking how peace had turned into a stranger. Lightning flashed, and for a split second, I saw my reflection in the glass, tired eyes, jaw set, heart still racing from everything we lived through. Down the hall, Brianna shifted in her sleep. Her body might have been resting, but her spirit wasn't. I whispered a prayer that the storm outside would take the one inside her, too. When the thunder faded, a new sound crept in, a faint hum near the kitchen wall. I frowned, leaning closer. It wasn't the fridge. It wasn't the clock. It was steady, sharp, and wrong. At first, I blamed the storm, but the next morning, the same sound returned. I followed it, slow, careful, until I found it behind the picture frame by the doorway. A small black box, wired clean, neat, confident. My heart slowed to a crawl. I reached up and pulled the frame free, the wire stretching down behind the molding. Whoever put it there knew what they were doing. Brianna, I called. She came down the hall, robe wrapped tight. What's wrong? I held up the device. This, you know about it. Her face drained of color. What is it? A recorder. Somebody's been listening. She took a step back, eyes wide. Do you think it's him? I looked at the wall, then at her. Who else? We searched the house together. Every corner felt like it had eyes. By noon, I called Gloria from church. Her cousin worked in tech at City Hall. A good boy named Derek came over, polite and quiet, carrying a little scanner. He ran it along the baseboards, the vents, the lamps. When it beeped twice, he sighed. Ma'am, I'm sorry, but this isn't the only one. We've found 3 more. One behind the TV, one near the thermostat, one under Brianna's nightstand. That last one broke her. She froze, her hand trembling above it, her reflection quivering in the dark window pane. I used to think he loved me, she whispered. He said he just wanted to make sure I was safe. I put a hand on her back. Safety don't come with batteries, baby. When Derek finished, he placed the recorders in a plastic bag. You could take these to the police, he said gently, but without proof he planted them. They might not do much. I nodded. Then I guess we get proof. After he left, Brianna sat on the couch staring at the rain streaking the glass. I can't live like this, Mama. Every sound feels like him. That's what he wants, I said, to make you small. But you remember who raised you. She turned, eyes wet but steady. You, that's right. And I didn't raise no woman to hide. That night, I couldn't sleep. I started writing. Dates, times, every strange call she'd gotten. Every shadow that didn't feel right. If they could rewrite her truth on paper, I'd learn to write mine louder. And while the pen moved, I remembered the young officer's warning. Sometimes the paperwork decides before the truth does. Maybe that was their truth, but I was learning how to make my own. The next afternoon, I drove to Marcus's office. I didn't plan to argue. I just needed to see his eyes. He stepped out of the building, surprise flickering across his face before that smooth smile settled in. "Mama Evelyn," he said, "didn't expect to see you." "I'm sure you didn't." He looked around, lowering his voice. "Is Brianna okay?" "She's breathing," I said. "You should thank God for that." He chuckled, all arrogance. "You threatening me?" I smiled, calm as the sky before lightning. "No, Marcus. I'm just letting you know. I don't scare easy, and I don't forget." Something shifted behind his eyes, a crack in his confidence, gone as quick as it came. "I think you should go home," he said. "This isn't good for anyone." "Oh, I am going home," I replied. "But you might want to check yours. See if your walls still trust you." I turned before he could answer. The wind caught my coat as I walked away, and for the first time in days, I felt taller. That night, I told Brianna what I'd done. "You shouldn't have gone alone," she said, shaking her head. "Maybe not," I said softly. "But sometimes a mother's got to look the devil in the eye so he knows she sees him." We sat in silence after that. The heater kicked on, humming low. She jumped, hand to her chest. "It's all right," I whispered, squeezing her fingers. "That's just the house talking." Still, my eyes moved to the walls, because deep down, I wasn't sure anymore. The quiet had changed. It felt like someone was breathing with us. I turned off the lamp, but I didn't close my eyes. Maybe the walls had ears. But soon, they would hear the truth too. The morning after that storm, the neighborhood was quiet. Not peaceful. Just the kind of quiet where you could feel eyes watching from behind curtains. I stepped out onto the porch, coffee in hand. The air still smelled like rain, and secrets trying to dry out. Brianna was finally asleep after a night of trembling. She'd wake every hour whispering, "Mama, I hear them," and I'd hold her close, whispering back, "Let 'em listen, baby." We don't whisper lies, but fear plants roots, and mine had grown deep. That's when Derek called. "Miss Evelyn," his voice low and tight. "You home?" "Yes, baby, I'm right here." "Good. Don't leave. We might have found something." My stomach dropped. "What kind of something?" A pause. "The kind that proves somebody's been in your house more than once." The porch creaked beneath my slippers as the wind pushed the last of the storm down the block. By the time Derek's gray Ford stopped out front, I was waiting in the doorway. He carried that look. Too much truth. Not enough comfort. "You said Marcus used to have a key?" "He did, till I changed the locks. Then either you got a ghost," he said, "or somebody's been making copies." He laid photos on the table, little black devices tucked behind outlets, under lamps, even one in Brianna's hallway. Cameras. My throat went dry. "You telling me?" He nodded. "3 here, 1 in your car. These ain't home kits, Miss Evelyn. They're coded, encrypted. Somebody's watching from more than one screen." I sat down hard. My safe space had been turned into a stage. Derek's tone softened. "You weren't paranoid. He's been tracking you for months. Calls, movements, everything." I stared at the photos. "He's not smart enough to pull this alone. That's what worries me," Derek said. "Someone inside helped him." "That kind of access? You can't buy it at Walmart." Then Brianna's door creaked. She stood there small and shaking, wrapped in my old robe. "Mama, what's happening?" I forced a smile. "Nothing, baby. Just fixing what's broken." Derek crouched to meet her eyes. "Hey, Bri. You feel safe with your mama?" She nodded. "Always." After he left, the silence felt heavier. Even the refrigerator hum sounded like it was listening. So I called Gloria. She'd seen enough of life to know how ugly it could get. When she picked up, I didn't waste time. They bugged my house. Gloria. Marcus did. Her voice dropped low. You want me to pray or plan? Plan. That one word changed everything. By afternoon, Gloria was on my porch with groceries, gloves, and a knowing look. The devil don't always come to take your soul, baby, she said, kneeling by the vent. Sometimes he just wants to hear you cry. We tore through that house, every corner, every crack. I spoke out loud just to spite the silence. You listening, Marcus? I said to the walls. You wanted a show? Then watch how a woman gets her power back. Gloria smirked. Let him hear it, honey. Let him choke on it. Later, we sat on the porch as blue lights flashed down the block. Not for us. Not yet. But the reminder was clear. Derek's right, Gloria said. He's got help. Maybe high up. I know, I answered. But I'm done waiting on a system that protects him. I'm moving first. Her eyes narrowed. What you got in mind? You ever hear that saying the walls have ears? Well, I'm about to make sure the right ones start whispering back. The next morning, I made calls to an old journalist friend in Atlanta and a lawyer who owed my brother a favor. I didn't beg. I gave them facts, dates, names. My voice shook, but it was steady enough to be taken seriously. By sundown, word had already started to travel. Quiet, careful. Folks who once looked away when Marcus's name came up were suddenly curious. That night, Brianna whispered, Mama, are we safe now? I brushed her curls back, smiling tired. Not yet, baby, but we will be. 'Cause now, they talking about us, and not the way they used to. When the house went still, I looked at the walls, the ones that betrayed me, and almost laughed. So if you're still listening, I whispered, voice low and calm, you might as well subscribe, 'cause the story ain't over, and neither am I. The rain hadn't stopped since dawn. It slid down the courthouse windows like melted silver, soft but steady, as if the whole city was whispering secrets too heavy to hold. Evelyn stood at her office desk, staring at that single black USB like it was a loaded gun. She'd replayed Marcus's trembling confession 100 times in her mind the way his voice cracked. The fear that trembled through the truth he'd carried for years. Clyde was quiet across from her, that silence between them heavier than any verdict. When she handed him the drive, his hand brushed hers just for a second. That second carried 20 years of buried battles. For a second, she thought, I saw myself 20 years ago, standing in some other woman's kitchen, promising her the truth would find daylight. Maybe this was that daylight finally cracking open. The hum of the newsroom outside grew louder. Phones ringing, voices rising. She closed her office blinds, took one long breath, and said, Play it. The screen came alive. Marcus's voice filled the air, broken, afraid, but honest. Every name he spoke hit like a hammer. Councilmen, officers, judges, people who'd smiled in Evelyn's face for years, who'd hugged her son at community dinners, who'd signed her commendations. Clyde's jaw tightened. You sure you want to drop this? You'll start a war. She met his eyes. War's already here. I'm just naming it. The video ended, and the silence that followed felt alive like the room itself was listening. Then Gloria burst in, breathless, clutching her phone. Ev, look. On the screen was the headline burning across every major feed. Corruption exposed. City under investigation. The image below it, Marcus's face. Pixelated but brave. Evelyn's heart stuttered. The screen light washed her face in blue, the same blue that used to mean police lights. Not justice. Outside, horns blared. Reporters were already gathering. Clyde rubbed his forehead, muttering, "This ain't gonna stay local. You just put the whole department on fire." Evelyn turned back to the window. The rain looked different now, less like grief, more like cleansing. "Let it burn." Her phone buzzed. "Derek." She hesitated before answering. "Evelyn." His voice came through low, urgent, almost shaking. "You don't know what you just stepped into. These men, these families been running this city longer than you've been breathing. You take one down, two more crawl up, then I'll keep stepping," she said. He sighed. "Maybe a state rep, maybe higher." She leaned on her desk. Corruption didn't wear uniforms anymore. It wore cufflinks. For a few seconds, neither spoke. Rain on glass. Breathing. The quiet kind of fear that lives behind courage. Finally, Derek said, "You always had fire, Evie. Just don't let them use it to smoke you out." He hung up. She didn't move for a long moment. Somewhere deep down, she wanted to cry, not from fear, but from the weight of how long it took for truth to breathe. Then she looked at Marcus's recording again. That trembling voice. That truth. She whispered, "Lord, if you gave me this storm, then give me the backbone to stand in it." The knock came right then. Sharp, echoing. Clyde went to open it, but she raised a hand. Through the frosted glass, dark figures stood, 3 of them. The kind of silhouettes that didn't need introduction. Her phone buzzed again. Gloria texted, "Black SUVs. Outside your building." Clyde whispered, "Ev, maybe we go out the back." "No." Evelyn straightened, eyes steady. "If they're coming for me, they can do it face to face." The door opened. Men in suits. Not police. Not reporters. Their presence filled the room like cold air. The tallest one spoke softly. "Ms. Holt, we need you to come with us." She looked at Clyde. He was pale, but standing tall beside her. "Where?" she asked. "Downtown office. Confidential briefing." She smirked. "That's what they called interrogations back in my day." He didn't flinch. Neither did she. She grabbed her coat, the USB still clutched tight in her hand, and walked toward them. Every step sounded like thunder as they led her through the hall. Reporters shouted questions. Flashes burst. The city's pulse roaring around her. But inside her, something had gone still strong. She wasn't walking into darkness. She was walking into proof. By the time they reached the elevator, Clyde caught her arm. "Ev, whatever happens, make sure they can't bury that file." She looked him dead in the eye. "Already sent it. Every outlet, every inbox that matters." His lips parted, relief breaking through fear. The elevator doors slid shut, and she exhaled slow. Her reflection stared back from the metal wall. Same woman, different strength. And this time, she whispered, "I didn't flinch." Outside, thunder rolled again. But it didn't sound like a warning anymore. It sounded like applause. The night air was thick with the smell of wet asphalt and exhaust when Evelyn stepped out of that elevator. The men who'd escorted her didn't say a word. They just led her down a long marble corridor that gleamed under sterile lights. Everything about the place felt too clean, too quiet, like truth didn't belong here. When they opened the double glass doors, she saw him. Senator Paul Hargrove, gray suit, perfect hair, the kind of smile that could sell sin as virtue. He stood behind a sleek table with a stack of folders so neat it looked rehearsed. "Ms. Holt," he greeted, smooth as honey. "Thank you for coming in on such short notice." Evelyn crossed her arms. "Didn't exactly have a choice." He chuckled, motioning for her to sit. There's always a choice. Yours just happens to affect an entire city. She didn't move. If this is about the files, oh, it's about more than the files, he interrupted. It's about optics. It's about how far you think your righteousness can stretch before it snaps. Clyde had warned her this would come, but seeing it up close, the calm arrogance, the power dressed in politeness set something off inside her. You people build your houses on silence, she said quietly. I'm just knocking on the door. He smiled. Careful, Ms. Holt. Doors swing both ways. To agents shifted behind her. Not cops federal. Maybe. Government muscle. The whole room felt like a trap with air conditioning. She finally sat, folding her hands. Go on then. Tell me what my choices are. He slid a folder toward her. Inside photographs. Her son Jamal, walking out of his college dorm. Her friend Gloria, leaving the newsroom. Clyde at a diner, drinking coffee. Her chest tightened. What is this? Insurance, Hargrove said softly. You see, we can't have another Marcus running his mouth. The city needs order, and the public needs reassurance. So here's what you'll do. You'll record a statement. You'll say your source fabricated evidence, that the story was rushed, that you regret the damage caused. In return, everyone you love continues to live their quiet little lives. Evelyn stared at the pictures again, her pulse beat heavy in her ears. Then she looked up. And if I don't? He leaned forward, voice dropping low. Then accidents happen. People disappear. The world forgets your name. That last line didn't scare her, it infuriated her. She'd spent her whole career documenting the forgotten. Every name they tried to erase, she'd carved into headlines until they couldn't hide it anymore. Her eyes narrowed. You should have picked someone else to scare. Hargrove sighed, signaling one of the men. Escort her out. They reached for her arm, but Evelyn pulled free. No need. I know my way out. As she turned to leave, she paused at the door and looked back. You might want to check your inbox, Senator. He frowned. Why? Because you're trending. His face drained of color. She didn't stay to watch. By the time she hit the street, her phone was vibrating non-stop. Gloria calling, reporters texting, news alerts piling up. She ignored them all, walking fast toward her car. The rain had started again, softer now, like it was trying to wash the city clean one drop at a time. When she got inside the car, she finally answered Gloria's call. Ev, where the hell have you been? They just leaked footage of a closed-door meeting. Hargrove, the commissioner, the DA. It's everywhere. Girl, you did it. Evelyn's hand froze on the steering wheel. Did what? You blew it open. Someone uploaded the full USB uncut. Every name, every payment, every threat. Her breath caught. She hadn't sent the uncut version. Gloria, that wasn't me. There was a pause. Then Gloria whispered, Then who? The question hung between them like static. Evelyn looked at her rearview mirror. Across the street, parked under a flickering lamppost, was a dark SUV. Same type as before. Her phone buzzed again, a known number. She hesitated, then answered, double quotes, Ms. Holt, a calm male voice said. You did well tonight. But this isn't over. You've drawn out bigger names than you think. Who is this? Let's just say someone who also believes in daylight. But the storm's moving to Washington now. The line went dead. Evelyn stared at her reflection in the windshield. She wasn't sure whether to feel victory or fear. Maybe both. Clyde texted next. You safe? Check your inbox. She opened it. One email. No sender. Just a subject line. Professional Enhancement Plan, Phase 2. Her stomach turned. The attachment was a video file. She pressed play, Marcus again. But this time, he wasn't confessing, he was naming people higher up. Names she hadn't even known existed. Then the screen glitched and a shadow stepped into frame. Someone handed Marcus a folder stamped federal contract. Her heart pounded. No, this can't be real. The video ended abruptly. A new message popped up instantly. Do not stop now. They think you will. For the first time all night, Evelyn realized something chilling. She wasn't exposing corruption anymore. She was standing inside it. She looked out at the city lights through the rain. Her reflection ghosted against the glass. And in that trembling silence, she whispered to herself, if they think I'll break, they picked the wrong woman. Somewhere far off, thunder rolled again, but this time it didn't sound like applause. It sounded like warning. Morning crept in slow, like the city itself was scared to wake up. A gray haze hung over the skyline, and the air smelled of burnt coffee and worry. Evelyn sat at her kitchen table, staring at the flash drive lying in front of her like it was alive. The email from last night replayed in her mind. Do not stop now. They think you will. She didn't know who had sent it, but she could feel eyes on her. Every sound in that apartment, the hum of the fridge, the creak of the pipes felt like a whisper from someone listening. She rubbed her temples, whispering, Lord, I don't even know who's helping me or setting me up anymore. Her phone vibrated again. Clyde. Evie. You up? Barely. Meet me at the diner. Back booth. 15 minutes. When Evelyn arrived, Clyde was already there, hunched over a laptop. He looked like he hadn't slept, and the bags under his eyes told her everything she needed to know. Talk to me, she said, sliding into the seat across from him. He turned the screen around. You see this? It was a federal website, classified access, but someone had cracked it. Inside was a report titled Professional Enhancement Plan, Phase 2. Evelyn's breath caught. That same phrase from the email. Clyde nodded. Phase 2 wasn't about cleanup. It's expansion. They're planning to reassign contracts, move millions through shell agencies under education, healthcare, even community outreach. All fake. She stared at the screen, her stomach twisting. This is bigger than City Hall. Way bigger, Clyde said. It's national. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The sound of spoons clinking and a waitress calling out orders filled the silence. Evelyn leaned in. So whoever sent me that message, they have access to federal servers? Clyde nodded slowly. And they're either trying to help you or frame you. That's when the bell above the door jingled. Derek walked in, his shoulders tense, scanning the room like a man expecting trouble. When his eyes met Evelyn's, he came straight over. We need to talk, he said, sliding into the booth beside Clyde. Clyde raised a brow. You look like hell. Been followed since sunrise? Derek muttered. 3 cars, same make, same mirrors. They're watching me. Evelyn frowned. Then why come here? Because I'd rather they see us together than think we're hiding, he said, glancing around. Listen, that video of Marcus, it's real, but it's part of a sequence. Someone edited pieces out before sending it public. There's another half still missing. Evelyn tensed. And where's that half? Derek hesitated. Buried under a fake server in DC. I have a name, Dr. Celia Grange. Works under a government subcontract. She's the one who built the recording network Marcus was tied to. Clyde cursed under his breath. So we're not talking local crime anymore. This is espionage. Evelyn's voice steadied, cold and focused. Then we treat it like war. The waitress came by, pouring coffee, oblivious to the storm brewing in that booth. When she left, Derek slid an envelope across the table. I took these last night. SUV from your block? Government plates. And look here, same model parked outside my building 2 hours later. They're sensing our movements. Evelyn studied the photos. We don't run, she said finally. We record. Clyde nodded. You mean surveillance? She smirked. Exactly. If they want to listen in, we'll give them something to hear. That night, Evelyn turned her living room into a command post. Cameras, mix, encrypted drives, everything patched into Clyde's old newsroom system. Gloria joined by phone, her voice tight with both fear and admiration. Girl, you sure about this? Gloria asked. You poking a bear that don't sleep. Evelyn chuckled softly. Then I'll make it wake up on my time. By midnight, the feed lit up. Static flickered. Then a face appeared, Dr. Celia Grange, speaking in a congressional briefing from months ago. Evelyn froze the frame. There she is, Clyde said. The ghost in the machine. Evelyn zoomed in. Play audio. Grange's voice came through crisp and calm. The enhancement protocol ensures compliance among contracted personnel and removes emotional interference. We're not silencing them, we're optimizing their loyalty. Evelyn sat back slowly, her heart pounding. Optimizing loyalty, she whispered. They're conditioning people. Clyde's hands trembled on the keyboard. Evelyn, this isn't politics. This is control. Before she could respond, a sharp click echoed through the room. The sound of her front door unlocking. Derek moved fast, gun drawn, nodding toward the hallway. Evelyn killed the monitor lights. The room sank into darkness. Footsteps, slow, deliberate, then a voice. Ms. Holt, we need you to come with us. Evelyn swallowed hard. You got a warrant. Silence. Then another voice, calm and chilling. We don't need one. Derek positioned himself near the door. Clyde clutched a flash drive in his fist. Evelyn whispered, Don't let them take the file. The lights flickered back on 3 men in black suits stood in the doorway. One holding a badge she couldn't quite read. Ma'am, the lead agent said, you're under federal protection. Please cooperate. Protection? She repeated. Or detention? No answer. Evelyn's gaze flicked to the window, rain streaking down the glass. City lights bleeding into shadows. Then she did something no one expected. She picked up the recorder from the table, hit play, and Marcus's voice filled the room. If this message ever surfaces, it means I'm gone and the plan's moving to phase 3. The agents froze. Evelyn's tone was steady. Dangerous. Now you understand. You don't protect me. You protect what's left of your secret. One of them stepped forward, hand twitching toward his earpiece. Derek's voice cut through the tension. You move, and this whole file goes live. The agent hesitated. Evelyn took a breath. Tell your bosses, she said quietly. The walls don't just have ears anymore. They've got witnesses. A long silence followed. Then, without a word, the agents backed out. When the door shut, the room was still. Clyde exhaled. What did you just start? She looked down at the recorder in her hand, its red light blinking like a heartbeat. Not a war, she said. A reckoning. Outside, the storm had stopped, but the thunder wasn't done with her yet. That morning, to calm for what had just happened, the streets glistened from last night's rain, every puddle holding reflections of clouds that looked ready to break again. Evelyn hadn't slept. She sat on her porch in her robe, eyes fixed on the street corner where the black SUVs had disappeared hours ago. Her coffee went cold before she took the first sip. Inside the house, Clyde was snoring softly on the couch, laptop still open on his chest. Derek had posted up by the window, half awake, his hand never far from his holster. The air was heavy. the kind that carries the smell of something unfinished. When the clock hit 8:07, Evelyn's phone buzzed. No caller ID, she hesitated, then answered. Evelyn Holt. A woman's voice came through. Calm, precise, professional. Mrs. Holt, my name is Dr. Celia Grange. Evelyn froze. Derek looked over from the window. I believe you have something of mine, the voice continued. Evelyn's tone sharpened. Funny, I was about to say the same to you. Dr. Grange chuckled softly. You're brave. I like that. But bravery without direction can get noisy people hurt. I'm giving you a chance to stop this before it gets irreversible. Evelyn leaned back in her chair, staring at the morning sky. Lady, you already made it irreversible when you started recording women getting beaten and calling it enhancement. The silence on the other end was sharp. Then Grange replied, You don't understand the scope. We don't destroy lives, Mrs. Holt. We redirect them. Evelyn said nothing. I'll be in Atlanta by tonight, Grange continued. You'll get coordinates. Come alone. Bring the file. We'll talk like women who understand power. The line went dead. Evelyn stared at the phone, pulse thudding. She wants to meet, she whispered. Derek shook his head. No way. That's bait. Clyde rubbed his eyes, sitting up. Ev, you don't walk into a snake pit to ask for directions. Evelyn took a slow breath. No, but you walk in if your daughter's name is on the next list. Her voice cracked on that last word, and for a moment, the room went quiet except for the soft hum of the refrigerator. By noon, she'd made her decision. The drive to Atlanta was long and tense. Derek insisted on tailing her a mile back, disguised as a mechanic in an old truck. Clyde stayed behind to monitor transmissions. Evelyn rehearsed every possible version of that meeting in her head. But when she reached the address, an abandoned research lab on the outskirts of the city, she knew no plan would survive whatever waited inside. The gate was open, swaying slightly in the breeze. Her tires crunched over gravel. The air smelled of metal, ozone, and something faintly chemical inside. The lights flickered to life automatically. Rows of cubicles, old monitors, paperwork scattered like ghosts. Then, at the far end, a woman stepped out. White lab coat, silver hair pulled into a bun, eyes cold but intelligent. Mrs. Holt, she said softly. You made good time. Evelyn kept her hands visible. Dr. Grange. Grange smiled faintly. I have to admit, I didn't expect someone like you to be so persistent. Someone like me? Grange tilted her head. Unfunded, unprotected, but determined. That combination's always dangerous. Evelyn took a step closer. You call spying on women enhancement? You call manipulation protection? Grange didn't flinch. I call it survival. We build order in chaos. You've only seen the shadows, not the light we create behind them. Evelyn felt her heartbeat rise. Then show me the light. Grange walked to a console, typing something in. A wall-sized screen lit up, showing maps, contracts, lists of personnel. Then, at the top of one file, Evelyn saw a name that stopped her breath. Brianna Holt. Her daughter's face appeared beside a digital profile labeled Candidate Evaluation, Phase 3. Evelyn's voice dropped to a whisper. You stay the hell away from her. Grange's smile didn't waver. Oh, Evelyn, she's already part of the system. Don't you see? She's what comes next. The clean generation. No rebellion, no trauma, no guilt. Just compliance. Evelyn lunged forward, slamming her hand on the console. You won't touch her. But Grange stepped back calmly, hands raised. You can't stop what's already in motion. You expose this, and you destroy her future. You bury it, and you save her. Evelyn stared at her, trembling. You think I'd trade truth for peace? I think you're a mother, Grange said softly. Mothers always trade something. Before Evelyn could respond, the side door burst open. Derek stormed in, gun drawn. Step away from her. Grange didn't move. Predictable, she muttered from the ceiling. A faint hum began. The lights flickered red, alarms silent but flashing. Clyde's voice came through Evelyn's earpiece. Ev, get out now. The system's self-locking. Evelyn grabbed the flash drive from her pocket, shoved it into the console. If I walk out, she still wins. But if this uploads... Ev, don't, Derek shouted. The screen started loading. 10%, 23%, 41%. Grange took a step forward. You don't know what you're unleashing. Evelyn met her eyes. Then maybe it's time the world did. The progress bar hit 97%. The lights exploded in a flash of white. When Evelyn opened her eyes, smoke filled the lab. Grange was gone. The screen was shattered, but her laptop beeped in her hand. Upload complete. Derek pulled her out through the emergency exit. Coughing. You all right? Evelyn nodded weakly. She's gone. But the feels live. They stood in the parking lot, watching the building burn from the inside. Sirens wailed in the distance. Clyde's voice came through the radio, breathless. Ev, it's everywhere. The footage, the documents. It's public. Evelyn looked up at the rising smoke. Then so am I. The wind carried ash across the sky, glowing like fireflies in the fading light. Somewhere far away, a TV anchor's voice broke through static. Breaking news: classified documents leaked ties local officials to federal compliance program. Evelyn whispered to herself, let em come. I'm not hiding no more. And for the first time in months, she smiled, small, tired, but fierce. The war was finally loud enough for the world to hear. The air in Atlanta felt different that morning, too still, too expectant. Like the city itself was holding its breath. I stood by the courthouse steps again, the same place where everything had begun. Cameras lined the street now, not police tape. And this time, no one was there to drag me away. They were there to listen. Evelyn's reflection shimmered in the courthouse doors before she stepped inside. The same woman who once trembled before her cousin's insults now carried a silence that spoke louder than any verdict. Her eyes met mine for a fleeting second, and I swear, for just that moment, we both saw who she used to be and who she'd become. Inside, the courtroom buzzed like a live wire. Reporters whispered her name like it was legend. The judge's gavel cracked once, steady, and all that noise turned into stillness. Evelyn placed the folder on the table. Her final submission, evidence that linked the mayor's office to over 20 years of embezzlement, manipulation, and human suffering disguised as policy. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. Her calm was the kind that made men shift in their seats, that made lies tremble in their throats. I didn't come here for vengeance, she said. I came here for the truth. And for the people who were too scared to speak it. The DA leaned forward, caught off guard by her steadiness. Even Marcus, the man who once silenced whistleblowers, couldn't lift his eyes. The power had shifted, and it wasn't just legal. It was spiritual. For a heartbeat, I thought of the Evelyn from that rainy night, clutching her son's hand, praying to survive the noise. That woman was gone now. This Evelyn had turned every scar into scripture. When the judge recessed, the courthouse erupted. Reporters swarmed, microphones flashing like lightning. Clyde moved through the chaos, his old fedora somehow still in place. He stopped by her side, quiet pride written all over his weathered face. "You did it, girl," he murmured. "You finally got the light to break through." Evelyn smiled faintly. "Light don't break through, Clyde. It burns its way in." Out on the courthouse lawn, the crowd had gathered, people holding up signs that said "Truth lives here and no more silence." Some were strangers, some were faces from her past, and standing right in front, holding a small cardboard heart, was her son. He didn't say anything. He didn't have to. The look in his eyes said everything she ever needed to hear. That's when the black SUV rolled to the curb again. For a second, my pulse jumped, a ghost of old fear. But this time, Evelyn didn't flinch. She turned toward it slowly, her expression unreadable. A window rolled down. Inside, a new figure, polished suit, calm smile. The kind of man who never dirtied his hands but always seemed to own the gloves. "Ms. Harris," he said, "we need to talk." She took a breath, the kind that steadies an entire room. "If it's about cleaning up the mess your friends made, you can make an appointment." He smirked, as if she didn't understand the scale. "No, ma'am, it's bigger than that now. You just opened a door that can't be closed." Then he nodded once, a quiet, dangerous promise, and the car pulled away, melting into the city traffic like a shadow that didn't belong to daylight. For a long moment, the world seemed to hold still. The chants, the cameras, even the wind faded into the background. Evelyn's son came to her side. "Mama, you okay?" She knelt so they were eye level. "I'm more than okay, baby. I'm ready." He smiled, small but sure. "Ready for what?" "For whatever tries to come through that next door." And as thunder rolled somewhere far off in the Atlanta sky, she rose and turned back toward the courthouse. Her reflection shimmered again in the glass. But this time, it wasn't just hers. Behind her, I could see all the faces she'd spoken for, all the names buried under lies now standing tall beside her, unseen but present. When she stepped inside, the rain began to fall, slow, cleansing, unafraid. Maybe that was God's way of saying the storm had done its job. And as her heels echoed through the marble hallway, I felt something shift, not just in the city, but in the way the world measured courage. If you're still listening right now, take a moment to breathe it in. The truth has weight, but it also has wings. So if this story moved you, don't just keep it to yourself. Share it, pass it on. Let somebody else know that even when they try to bury you, you can still rise and stand tall in your own storm.